In all languages, forgiving in none. Hunter Collins. All right, everybody, it is up to you to decide who the winner of this one is. By applause, who followed Marito's Less Languages libretto word for word? Marito Lopez. All right. A lot of love for Marito. He's showing off the guns. He feels like he's got this one. And who supported Hunter's addiction to learning a new language? Hunter Collins. Well, the audience has spoken. The winner is Marito Lopez. One language is 20. Big hand for Marito Lopez and Hunter Collins, everybody. Well, that's all for this week. I'm Steve Patterson saying to all our multilingual listeners, thank you, merci, grazie, and also thank you in other languages. I'll argue with you again soon, Canada. Good night.
The Debaters is created by Richard Side. This week's episode was produced by Nicole Callender, Chloe Edbrook, Dean Jenkinson, and Graham Clark. With continuity by Graham Clark, Diana Francis, and Gary Jones. Technical production by James Perella and Todd Reimer. Story editing by Gary Jones. With special thanks to Katie Ellen Humphreys, David Pride, and Emily Ferrier. Executive producer of CBC Radio Comedy is Lee Pitts. And thanks to everyone at the McIntyre Performing Arts Center in Hamilton.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Commotion with Elamin Abdelmahmoud.
It's time to talk about funflation.
Crime Story.
You got one witness who can't be found.
This American Life with Ira Glass.
There are signs that read, see something, say something.
Radio Lab.
What is coming up? What is going wrong, actually?
The Sunday Magazine with Pia Chattopadhyay.
How does the last 24 plus hours complicate or change things?
Telling Stories. Sunday night on CBC Radio 1 and on the Listen app.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at 12 degrees with rainy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. The National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations calls this a pivotal moment. This week, an Air Canada flight crew took the headdress of Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak before takeoff. She says airline staff forced her to hand over a case containing the sacred item, but it was handed back by the pilot after she complained. Woodhouse-Nepenak says she plans to speak to Air Canada to call for change.
I want to focus on making sure that First Nations can come through our airport and our airlines, all airlines, Air Canada included, in a safe way, in a respectful way.
Woodhouse-Nepenak will call for a mandatory board member of Air Canada to be First Nations. She also wants the airline to develop a protocol for First Nations and for cross-cultural training for airline staff. The Supreme Court of Canada has issued a ruling that means military judges can continue to preside over cases involving military personnel. In a split decision, the court has dismissed an argument that military judges are biased. Olivia Stefanovic has your details.
The case before Canada's top court involved 9 members of the Canadian Armed Forces facing various service offences. Under the military's judicial system, they were supposed to be tried by military judges appointed after being lawyers and military officers for at least 10 years. The accused challenged that requirement, arguing their right to fair hearings were violated. As judges and military officers, the accused alleged military judges have divided loyalties, leaving them vulnerable to pressures from the chain of command. The Court-Martial Appeal Court disagreed, punting the case all the way to the top court. In a split 6-1 decision, the Supreme Court of Canada dismissed the appeals and sided with the Court-Martial Appeal Court, ruling the military status of military judges does not violate the constitutional guarantee of judicial independence. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Winnipeg Airports Authority turned a profit in 2023. A rebound in passenger traffic through Richardson International allowed the WAA to post its first profit since the pandemic started. According to the authorities' annual report, it made nearly $15 million last year. That's a turnaround from a loss of $5.5 million in 2022. A major health insurance provider is being sanctioned by the federal government. Just under a year ago, Canada Life took over the country's largest health care plan for public servants. Unions representing the workers say the sanction is a positive first step. Sophia Marnouche has your story.
Paying out of pocket for essential medical treatments, waiting months to get claims reimbursed, and spending hours on the phone trying to get answers. Those are just some of the issues public service unions say they've heard of. Now the federal government says it's applying, quote, financial consequence mechanisms, but so far hasn't given details on what that means. Pamela Eastfeld is the president of the Professional Association of Foreign Service Officers.
I'm happy to learn that they are not going to continue to just keep paying this very lucrative contract, even when they're not receiving the service.
But Eastfeld says what her members want most is compensation. Stéphanie Montreuil is with the Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada and agrees that sanctions aren't enough.
It is not ensuring that there's a plan in place so that this does not continue to happen.
3 unions representing public servants intend to submit policy grievances with the Treasury Board. Sophia Marnouche, CBC News, Ottawa.
Down south, Donald Trump is in court today, back in court at his criminal hush money trial in New York.
So we have another day of court in a freezing courthouse. It's very cold in there, on purpose, I believe. They don't seem to be able to get the temperature up. It shouldn't be that complicated, but we have a freezing courthouse.
It's a complaint Trump has made before. On the stand again this morning is David Pecker, the former publisher of the National Enquirer. He has been testifying this week about his efforts to protect Trump from potentially damaging news stories during the 2016 presidential election campaign. And finally, CBC is hearing from Burton Cummings for the first time about a dispute between himself and a band touring under the name The Guess Who. Cummings, of course, was lead singer of the original iconic band, but 2 members of that original group have been using the songs for their shows. This month, Cummings ended the performance rights agreement for songs he and Randy Bachman wrote while with the band.
Now, the fake band has gone and re-recorded new fake versions of the classic songs. And not once has the fake band applied for or paid for a sync license.
A synchronization license is an agreement between a user and the owner of the song's copyright. Since Cummings pulled the rights to his songs, the other band has canceled shows. In Winnipeg today, we're seeing periods of rain and breezy today with temperatures falling to around +8. In Brandon, showers and windy, a high of 15. Dauphin, a chance of showers and windy, a high of 19. Flin Flon, sunny and windy, a high of 12. Thompson, a chance of showers and windy, a high of 10. And in Churchill, a chance of flurries and windy with a high of +3.
Hello, my friends. Thanks for joining us on this Friday for Radio Noon. I'm Janet Stewart. The Chinese company that owns TikTok says it will not sell, no matter what a new U.S. law demands. That means TikTok could be banned in the United States. In our call-in second half today, we want to hear from you. Would you like it if TikTok was banned here? Yes or no? Call in after 12:30 and weigh in. A family's adventure raising alpacas is quite a story. At 12:15 today, we're going to take you to Brandon's Keystone Center, where furry mammals were taking part in a friendly alpaca competition. But first, a Manitoba first. A spinal care program. What difference it could make to your care. For the first time, Manitoba has a provincial spinal care program. Health Minister Uzoma Asaguera announced it earlier this week.
This plan includes several key things, including increasing spinal procedure operating slates by 50%, by over 50% starting next month, May 1st. Expansion of spinal surgery programs here at HSC, at Concordia Hospital, and Brandon Regional Health Center. Establishing a collaborative spine outpatient clinic at HSC will shorten the patient wait list for consultation and provide on-site diagnostic imaging.
That was Manitoba's Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera listing some features of a new provincial spine program. Dr. Ed Buchel joins us by Zoom today to explain how this program will work. He's the provincial surgery specialty lead for Shared Health. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Manitobans have heard so much for so long about surgical wait times. The idea of a spinal procedure operating slate increasing by more than 50% starting next week, that is, sounds hard to believe. How can that be accomplished?
Well, it didn't happen overnight, that's for sure. This is a plan that requires, as the minister announced, a collaborative, multi-layered approach. So you look at the spine patient and you look at the journey that they take and you try and figure out what are the impediments to them getting the care they need. Some of those people, not all, not even the majority, will need surgery. So from our standpoint, we really want to target where are the hurdles or the impediments to delivering the care. Some of those people just need to be seen once they've been to their primary care providers, and they need to be seen by an expert in spinal pain or spinal disorders. So we've augmented our spinal assessment clinic. The spinal assessment clinic is run by physios.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic idea to have them, to share it and to have physios assessing people. And in this clinic, there are surgeons right there that they can confer with, correct?
You bet. That's the whole plan. You cohabit people together so that they can see people independently, but when they need an immediate second opinion or a higher level of involvement from the surgeons, they're there. We're not sending people home. They're not flying back up north. They're not driving back to their home in Brandon or Dauphin or wherever they need to be to come to another appointment. It's expediting care by better organization of our clinic structures.
That collaborative spine clinic is in Winnipeg, correct, at HSC?
It is. It is. But
how does that help people in other parts of the province?
There are outreach or satellite sort of spokes that go out with our physiotherapists. They have several of these clinics developed throughout the province that they can be seen closer to home. So we might not have enough spine surgeons to put one in every community, but we have the ability and are producing satellite areas where physiotherapists will have much better access for our spine patients.
And in the meantime, if you're somebody who doesn't need surgery, they might be able to help you right away.
You bet. Help you, direct you to the pain clinic. Some of our anesthesiologists, we're augmenting our pain clinic while we do this. So people that need injections or other types of procedures that our anesthesia colleagues can do, that is being augmented at the same time. So we have 80% of people that probably do not need surgery, but need care. And there's 3,000 people waiting for this now.
These satellite centers are already in development or they're already out there?
They're already out there. The spine assessment clinic is already out there. And I'm sorry, I can't off the top of my head remember where they are right now. But the overall reduction in wait time to be seen in a spine assessment clinic has gone from years to months, now to weeks.
Now, you mentioned that we may not have a spinal surgeon in every community, but we do have 3 more of them. They were recruited to our province over the past 10 months, 2 for Winnipeg and 1 for Brandon. How much of their decision to come here was based on anticipation of this new program?
I would hope a lot.
They knew about it.
Yeah, they absolutely knew about it. It was a heavy recruitment incentive to come. Most care providers, nurses, doctors, physios, others, go into it because it feels great to deliver good care. Like, people thank you. In a time of need, to allow a person to get better, there's few things in life that make you feel better, especially in a job. This allows these surgeons to really deliver excellence in care. The foundations that fund the equipment, the government that funds our clinics and our operating room time have all come together. Surgeons, other care providers, foundations, and government, we've worked together to really develop a provincial plan so we know who's waiting, where, and for what.
This program, though, if it was used to sort of help recruit these surgeons, it's been in development for a very long time when we had a former government.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So this would have been developed regardless.
Yes, absolutely. We are trying to produce in the surgery program data-driven decisions based on wait times. As you said, wait times have been in the news forever. We haven't had good data around this. The foundational thing that is going to drive change forward in our province is knowing who's waiting, for what, where, and what resources do I need to take care of those people. Then we can have rational conversations. But before this point, we have not had the ability to give you clear data that was not being questioned by various people for various reasons. This data will be out shortly, where we'll be able to share with many people at different levels very, very objective waitlist data.
Will having a spinal surgeon in Brandon make a difference to people living outside of Winnipeg? And if so, how much?
Huge difference. We now have two. You have one that has been there for an extended period of time. You have another person who has been trained on the newest minimally invasive equipment that is going to be coming to Brandon, that is part of this program. And if you just look at the difference in the spinal surgery numbers from 2019, and I have them up here, there was 192 surgeries done in Brandon. And as of the last count for 2023 fiscal year, we've gone to 274 cases. So from 192 to 274, with the addition of a new spinal surgeon for only half of 2023. So they've added almost 30% more cases in half of the year by adding that extra surgeon. We're starting to talk about real numbers that will make an impact in that area and surrounding areas, not just Brandon, not just Prairie Mountain, but the whole area that's appropriate to be referred to them.
This new equipment as well that's part of this can be a real game changer. And Brandon, you say, is getting it. Can you please explain how this new equipment might make a difference in someone's recovery?
Sure. The process is, we want more clinics. Then we determine the people that need to go to surgery. Then we build more operating rooms. But not only are we building more operating rooms to do the same surgery, we're equipping those operating rooms with the highest state-of-the-art equipment that we can, so we can do more minimally invasive surgery. Targeted surgery using intraoperative imaging, navigation tools, so we don't have to make big incisions down people's back that results in weeks of in-hospital admissions and months of recovery. That can be switched to a day in the hospital or even no days in the hospital, and days to weeks of recovery if we can really target some of these surgeries not to have the traditional open approaches, but to do minimally invasive approaches.
And that then trickles down to, some people hear that, we've got more surgeons, we've got more operating rooms. Well, that's great, but we don't have enough nurses. If you can get people in and out.
You bet. That's flow through our system. It's all about decreasing the amount of the footprint that every person is using, or how much resources we need to take care of a patient. We've shifted it to technology and away from an inpatient bed-based need. If I put a person in the hospital after surgery for an extended period of time, that's a huge burden on our nursing resources. It stops flow from our emergency rooms. It stops flow for nurses to do other things, medicine patients, long-term care patients. So there's multiple benefits, not to mention it's better for the patient.
To get them up and moving and get them home.
You bet.
Are there things about the way this new spine program is designed that you think could also improve flow in other surgical areas, like I think of hip and knee surgeries, something like that?
Yeah, so this same model, the same thought process where you focus on the patient's journey, you find out where there's obstructions to getting these patients from home back to home in as normal a way as possible, is being used for all aspects of surgery now. Surgery is going through a complete rethink in terms of eliminating all of our surgical wait lists. We will produce a plan based similar to what we've done on spine for all aspects of surgery. It is leveraging collaborative care models in clinics. It is leveraging alternate models of care with our nurses, our physios, our athletic therapists, and our physicians to let them work to their maximum scope of their profession. And then leveraging our operating rooms by filling them with state-of-the-art equipment. Better care, less impact on our group. We buy resources by buying better equipment.
Dr. Ed Bushell, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Ed Bushell is the Provincial Surgery Specialty Lead for Shared Health.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens.
And how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
The time is 12:19. You're listening to Radio Noon. I'm Janet Stewart. Thank you so much for being with us today, for joining us on CBC Manitoba's YouTube page, and for getting ready to phone in. We want to hear from you today because something's happening that's quite interesting and could be a real game changer for social media and for your information. We were just talking about the CBC News app. Yeah, download it because it's already hard enough for Canadians to access news on their phones. Some people now, because of Meta's ban on Canadian news coverage, want to get their news from TikTok. But what happens if TikTok is eventually banned in Canada? Our country is watching very carefully what's happening in the United States right now, where a law is demanding that TikTok be sold, or it could be banned in 9 months' time. Well, the company that owns TikTok says, well, no way, we're not going to sell. We're going to fight this. What does it all mean? We're going to talk about that after 12:30. And we want to know what you think of this and how important TikTok is to you. We're looking at a beautiful sunny day in some parts of our province. It's sunny right now in Flin Flon and in Dauphin, but there's still some rain being reported at the Brandon Airport. A little bit of light snow in Churchill. Gillam's got the sun and cloud mix. So does Island Lake. So does Lynn Lake. Sunshine in Norway House right now. Portage is having a light rain shower that's being reported at the airport. And we have light rain falling at Winnipeg's airport as well. We'll have your complete Manitoba forecast coming up after the 12:30 news. For Angie Ballone, raising alpacas is a family affair. Her farm, Balhoun's Alpaca Acres in Manitou, is home to 30 of the curious camelids. A camelid is a mammal with a 3-chambered stomach, like a camel. The family showed off some of the best of their brood at the 21st annual Manitoba Keystone Classic Alpaca Show that was held last weekend. More than 70 alpacas from 16 farms were there, and so was CBC's Chelsea Kemp. She first asked Angie Ballone how she got involved with alpacas.
Back in the day, we lived on a farm. I was a full-time stay-at-home mom, and I wanted something that I had 4 children and a husband, but I wanted something that we could do as a family that was safe and was going to be a real challenging learning experience. And we weren't really interested in having to butcher our animals or that side of things, but growing up on a livestock farm, I was excited about the idea of raising animals, processing fiber, and then so the kids grew up animal husbandry, breeding, birthing, shearing, knitting, to doing like selling our products. So it's a whole journey that's very challenging, and
How many other alpaca shows can you go to in Manitoba? Are there any?
No, there are not. We are one of the only show in Manitoba, and there's not a lot of alpaca shows in general in Western Canada. Most other shows are west. There's Agribition in the fall at Regina, and then otherwise you're into Alberta.
Why do you need shows like this?
These shows are really important for breeders. You come and you get to see what other breeders are doing. You get to look at other genetics. You get feedback from the judge on your own breeding program. So anyone who's breeding and has a program and wants to improve, and it's really an important part of the whole process. You get to network. It's a lot of fun. Like my daughters and I, we go to the shows together. They book their holidays around our alpaca shows, and it's a really fun time, but also a time to really take a look at your own program.
You've been in this industry for almost 2 decades now. How is it changing?
I would say that probably one of the biggest things that I've seen is the quality it's terrific. Like the quality of animals from when we started to today is just amazing. Like breeders have just come miles in their programs, and the decisions that are being made, so impressive. Is
a big part of that just from coming to shows like the Classic and talking?
As with breeding any livestock, you have to pay a lot of attention to your own herd and what is going to be advantageous for breeding decisions for your herd. But by coming to these shows, that's when you get to see other bloodlines, what they might be able to offer to your own herd. If you look at, getting a new herd sire or adding a breeding female to your program, coming to a show is the best way to see what other breeders' best animals are and what they're doing.
And do you find like a lot of the people at the show, are they like your family where it's kind of generational now?
Yes, you see that a lot. Alpacas are very addictive, enjoyable livestock. So it's really, you see a lot of mothers, daughters, fathers, sons, whatever. It definitely does carry on through the generations.
What is it that makes them so lovable?
Well, they're a very safe, easy animal to work with. They're so smart, and they're so individual. I mean, and then the amount, like the fiber and the beautiful things you create from their fiber, giving them that annual haircut every year. It's all such a process that's, you just feel proud that you take this beautiful animal in the field and you shear it, make yarns, create things you wear and other people wear in your community. And
When are you shearing?
We are actually shearing next weekend. We will switch gears, get home, start getting organized for shearing.
How much do you get off the 30 alpacas?
Well, like a good quality alpaca will shear 8 to 10 pounds average. So you'll get some that will even do more and some that will do less. But so when you consider like a skein of yarn, it tends to be 3 to 4 ounces. You get a lot of really wonderful product from. And the alpaca, it's so unique in the sense of its qualities, and it has a very amazing history. The Incas, 5,000 plus years ago, raised alpacas. It was actually their form of currency. Only royalty was allowed to wear alpaca, and the qualities we see today, and it's still a cottage industry in North America, but in Europe, all the high fashion houses use alpaca in their fabrics. It's stronger than wool, it's softer than cashmere, it breathes, it wicks moisture, it's hypoallergenic, it resists odor.
I know you say it's a cottage industry, but is it growing in Manitoba?
Yes, when I say cottage industry, like there's no mass production of alpaca garments, like mass. There is like mills producing for breeders, getting their own yarns done, it's definitely growing. And when I started with alpaca, people didn't know what they wear. And now people know. Not only do they know, but they know the benefits of alpaca.
How does it feel for you knowing that your girls are going to keep it going?
Yeah, I love it. It's what keeps me going. We're constantly talking, breeding decisions, where we want to go with our herd, and yeah, it's very much been a family venture that's going to continue.
That's Angie Ballone speaking with CBC's Chelsea Kemp. The Ballone family will be sharing their 30 alpacas this weekend. You can see video of these alpacas and read Chelsea's story on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Want to give you a quick heads up right now. Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure this morning closed the southbound lanes of Highway 75 from Morris to St. Agathe. All traffic is now being detoured into the the northbound lanes, and the province hasn't said how long this will last. I suspect a while, because this is to continue a concrete reconstruction project that started last year. So just be prepared when you're going on Highway 75 from Morris to St. Agathe that the southbound lanes are closed. The Winnipeg Jets, as you know, I'm sure, face the Colorado Avalanche tonight in Game 3 of their series. That's not the only game that fans of hockey, for example, fans of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, are paying attention to. It's been a really exciting playoff season for the MJHL, especially for fans of the Winkler Flyers. Tonight, that team has a chance to win the championship for the first time since 1998. The defending champs, the Steinbach Pistons, will be fighting to stay alive and avoid being swept away in the best-of-7 series. Coming up on Radio Noon, we've got another call-in conversation for you. Our lines will open in about 40 seconds' time. Today we're talking about TikTok. It's an incredibly powerful app. The Chinese company that owns it says it will not sell, which means it could be banned in the United States over the security concerns that exist with TikTok. Canada's watching all this very closely. We want to know what this means to you. I know to TikTok creators and users, well, there's a lot they have at stake. Tell us, would you like it if TikTok was banned here? Yes or no? That's our call-in question. Coming up, the number to call is 204-780-0893. Now, it's time for your news.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're at 12 degrees with rainy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. The Prime Minister says it's unacceptable an Air Canada flight crew took the headdress of Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak. The national chief of the Assembly of First Nations had the sacred item taken away from her before takeoff. Woodhouse-Nepenak says airline staff forced her to hand over a case containing the headdress as she was boarding. It was handed back by the pilot after she complained. Justin Trudeau says reconciliation is something to be engaged in not just by governments, but by institutions and individuals.
This was a mistake that I know Air Canada is looking into right now, but from my perspective, that is, it is an unfortunate situation that I hope is going to lead to a bit of learning, not just by Air Canada, but a lot of different institutions.
Air Canada says it's reviewing its policies after the, quote, regrettable incident. An orca, which was stuck in a lagoon off Vancouver Island, is now free. The female whale was trapped there since its mother died more than a month ago. It swam past a bottleneck at high tide this morning. The Ahatsat and Nitchilat First Nations say the rescue team is ecstatic, although the orca still has to leave the inlet to reach the open ocean. And finally, CBC News is hearing from Burton Cummings for the first time about a dispute over who can play songs written and performed by the Guess Who. That storied Winnipeg band is responsible for countless hits, but this month, Cummings ended the performance rights agreement for songs he wrote while with the band. At issue is a band touring under the name The Guess Who and playing the songs. Since Cummings pulled the rights to his songs, the other band has canceled shows. Cummings quotes a friend who posted about the dispute online.
They're like a band of bank robbers who are upset that the bank they have been robbing for years has decided to improve their security to prevent any future robberies. It's as simple, the bank, let's put it this way, the bank is now closed.
Cummings says he is still happy to grant access to his songs to those who ask, and he doesn't rule out a return to Winnipeg, where he will play those songs himself. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head on to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can use the CBC News app.
Thank you, Matt Humphrey.
Back soon.
I hope so.
I will be.
Good. Okay.
I
We'll talk
promise.
to you then.
Yeah,
all right.
all right then.
All right. The lovely Matt Humphrey and his beautiful pipes for radio. Doesn't he have a great voice? Yes, yes, he does. You know who else's dulcet tones I adore? That laugh right there. Riley Lachuk joins us now to take a look at our Manitoba forecast. Heading into the weekend, so important.
Except maybe when I'm bringing you rain, Janet.
But we need rain, don't we?
We do. We really do need the rain. And I know I sound like a broken record when I've said that for several weeks now, maybe even a few months. Yes, we need the precipitation. So yes, we're looking at periods of rain continuing really across southern Manitoba as we get through the afternoon hours here. Yes, we're into more of the steadier rain. We did see some showers through the early morning, even some rumbles of thunder into the Westman region this morning. Still a slim chance we could see maybe a couple rumbles of thunder through the afternoon hours today. Otherwise, we're looking at periods of rain on and off as we get through into the afternoon. So yes, we're looking at a rainy day through the Red River Valley, tapering off back to the west as we get through the later afternoon hours. So mainly cloudy evening tonight through areas like Brandon down through Boissevain, Melita, but we still hang on to the rain here in the Red River Valley and through the Interlake as we get through the afternoon into the evening. By the time we hit 7:30 tomorrow morning or so, we're still looking at a few showers tapering off through Winnipeg and eastern Manitoba. By and large, though, we're looking at a clearing sky. So even by the time we get to about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, we are looking at a return to more sunnier skies here in the Red River Valley. That clearing happening earlier in the day through areas like Westman and northern Manitoba, getting a mainly sunny day for both Saturday and into Sunday. We're looking at mainly sunny conditions really province-wide. Yes, I have been saying about 10 to 15 millimeters through the Red River Valley, and yes, the forecast modeling still suggesting that that is fairly accurate as we get through the day today into the day on Saturday. So looking at about 10 to 15 millimeters, not as much yet to come back to the west. So areas like Brandon through Boissevain, Carberry, maybe only getting another few millimeters on top of what's already fallen, but generally around that 10 millimeter mark for the Red River Valley. We are going to feel the winds, though, as we get through the afternoon. So gusty south and southeast winds as we head through the day today into tonight, gusting to 40 or even 50 through the Red River Valley. Those do back off a bit overnight, but we'll see return to more gusty conditions through the afternoon tomorrow out of the north. 30 gusting to 50. So the temperatures we're at now, likely our daytime highs for today. We'll start to see the temperatures dropping off as that cold front pushes through. So Winnipeg, yes, a high of 12 today, but dropping to about 8 or 9 degrees by the time we hit the 4 o'clock hour. Same through the Westman region, looking at temperatures really dropping off as we get through the afternoon hours here. Single digits are both Saturday and Sunday, highs of 9 degrees. Chance we get to some more showers rolling through Monday, Tuesday, and back up to more seasonal temperatures by the time we get to the middle end of next week, which, Janet, will be the start of May.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it me or is this year flying by?
It's flying by.
It's flying by, man.
Time flies and you're having fun.
It really does. Thank you so much, Riley.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend.
You too. Riley Lachuk will be back during Up to Speed today, which airs between 3 and 6 p.m., but I think there's special coverage on between 3 and 4 today. Luckily, Faith Fundal will join us later in the program and explain it all to us. Of course, they host Up to Speed. I have the opportunity now to turn and smile at David Gerhard. He is the Department Head of Computer Science at the University of Manitoba, and he joins us now in studio. I'm really glad you're here for us.
I'm really happy to be here, too.
We are going to be talking about TikTok. That is the subject of our call-in today. TikTok is incredibly popular and one of the most powerful social media apps in the world. But the company that owns TikTok, ByteDance, has ties to the Chinese government, and that worries Western countries, including Canada and the U.S. A new American law demands the company sell the app, or it could be banned in the United States. But the company has now publicly refused to sell. Would you like it if TikTok was banned in our country? Simple yes or no will do. Or you can delve more deeply into your right to freedom and letting you know. How do you feel about TikTok? Do you love it? Do you rely on it for those amazing videos and all the things that you discussed there? Do you rely on it for money? Are you one of our content creators? A lot of people are. We want to know how you feel about the possibility of TikTok being banned in the US, and would you like it if it was TikToked? If TikTok was banned here. Numbers to call 204-780-0893. Again, 780-0893. David Gerhard, why does this battle between a powerful government and a social media giant matter?
Well, it matters because it's a question of whether or not governments should be able to control what private companies do with the things that they build. We've seen already, as you've said, that there are questions of foreign influence in TikTok in terms of the way that the Chinese government may or may not impact what ByteDance chooses to do. And we've seen how foreign influence in other social media apps has led to division and political problems and all these challenges.
Divisions in political are you talking about Meta?
Yeah, that's right. Like misinformation campaigns across social media platforms, we have good evidence to suggest that 2016 elections had foreign influence, and so it's reasonable for governments to look at these platforms and say, are these having the effect on our society that we want them to have?
Right, and a lot of people would question that, but that is a call-in for another day, David. Boy, we could have a good chat on that. Let's do it. Right now we're talking about the TikTok ban, the possibility of it. Would you like it if it happened here? 204-780-0893. If you're outside Winnipeg, you can call toll-free 1-800-268-5483. Just how powerful is TikTok's algorithm?
TikTok is one of the fastest growing social media platforms on the planet. It didn't take very long before it was across the board, everybody was using it. And the key is this idea that it will show you the next thing that it thinks you want to see. You don't have to make a choice. It'll just show you the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's very good at it. It's surprisingly good at showing you something that will keep you on the platform. Whether it's something you want to see or not is a different question, but it will keep you on the platform, which is what they want.
Well, we're getting some questions and comments in from our YouTube viewers, too. Thank you so much for joining us from YouTube. Thanks for calling as well. We've got some folks who are ready to go. Dean, thank you for calling Radio Noon. Hi, Dean.
Hi. Oh, man, you picked me right away.
Right?
Yeah, this whole thing with TikTok and the threats to security I don't think are valid. I think this is more an indication of how they're trying to control information that's out there.
They're trying to control. Who's trying to control? You mean governments?
Yes, absolutely. And we see this in the recent bills that have come through regarding our internet and whatnot. And that's what I fear here. I don't think there's a security angle to this. I think it has more to do with control of what people see and hear on the internet. And this I find very discouraging because the mainstream media, including CBC, don't necessarily reflect people's opinion and what's really going on in the world. And I want to see these other sources of news and information continue to be viable.
How concerned are you, Dean, about misinformation? Because it is actually, especially with AI, it's really easy to say fake a video.
I know, and that's horrible stuff. I agree with you 100%.
But that's happened on social media quite a lot.
Yeah, it does, but that doesn't mean it should be banned. I mean, we should have people should have the ability to be able to consider whether what they're seeing is real or not. And I don't think banning everything. Misinformation, I believe the worst part about misinformation is coming from our governments and our media. This is where I feel it's coming from mostly. And so to ban things like TikTok and, the hoopla around X and whatnot, I find it absolutely insane.
David,
and I'm very, very concerned about that.
Thanks so much for calling in. You may raise some really interesting points, Dean. David, I want to ask you, So the thing that the U.S. government is saying is it's scared of user information, private information, getting into the hands of the Chinese government. Why would that be so dangerous?
Yeah, the real concern is that these platforms could be used. I mean, there's a possible conduit for these platforms to be used to collect private information from third-party citizens, and the question is what they would do with that, whether that should be a thing that is permitted or allowed, or it's a thing that should be interrupted. To the caller's point, I think it's really interesting to see that the U.S. government is interested in banning TikTok for these concerns, both the privacy concern and the security concern. But to his point, like Facebook and Twitter and all these other social media platforms still exist, and the same kind of misinformation that happens there happens on these other platforms as well.
But those aren't owned by Chinese companies.
Exactly.
So this is a part of the battle between the U.S. and China.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the real question is whether a foreign influence corporation should have the same kind of power on the kind of things that the U.S. citizens are able to see and do. And that's a real question. And it's the kind of thing that TikTok is then saying, no, we disagree. We think that we should be able to have these kind of conversations. People should be able to see whatever they want to see.
Well, there's interesting, we touched on a little bit about misinformation and about AI and how easy it would be to influence things. It would be, TikTok will be, assuming it's still around, whether it is, it'll still be around. How can you get rid of TikTok?
Well,
How
and even
can
if you do, this short form full feed video process exists on everybody else's platform now too, right? Like if TikTok goes away, you can see the same videos on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else. So it doesn't really change that narrative. It just changes where it comes from.
Well, that leads us right into what Marcel is saying. Marcel is calling in now to Radio Noon. Thank you so much for joining us, Marcel.
Thank you, Janet. I was just wondering, like I think your guest just said it, what is the difference between every other company that collects data and TikTok?
What is the difference, David?
And I think this is a reasonable question to ask because the difference, as claimed in the bill, is that it's the foreign influence and the foreign access to that data that the U.S. government is really concerned about, and what the foreign governments might do with this information, how they might make decisions with this information. That's the concern. Because
other countries, if you're German and you own a social media app, Germany doesn't have the right to say, if the German government asked for the information, you would, as the company, likely fight that tooth and nail.
That's right, and the Chinese government has control over Chinese companies in a way that that American government doesn't have over American companies.
Right, and it is true that, like in Canada, we've already. I just said "like" in the middle of a sentence. I guess that's the way it talks. If my grandmother was here, she would just say, "Janet, Elizabeth, what are you doing?" We've already banned TikTok on any government devices for security reasons, right?
Because TikTok and WeChat and Kaspersky software and many other governments around the world also have done this. Australia and Belgium. I've got a big list here of all the countries that have banned TikTok and other Chinese corporation software on their federal devices, right? Because of the concerns that their security apparatus has said are things to be worried about.
Yeah. Marcel, does that answer your question? Or do you still don't think there's really a difference between TikTok being banned or any other website
I can
or app?
understand. No, I'm sorry for interrupting you, John. I can understand how the Chinese Communist Party would want to influence our political system. I do believe it does. But what I can't understand is how some guy like me living in St. James, what they have to do with my life or if they're interested in my life. I don't understand that. If somebody could edify me on this situation, it would be greatly appreciated.
Marcel, thanks so much for calling Radio Noon. We really appreciate you calling.
Thank you, Janet.
We'd like to hear from everyone out there who's got questions about this or concerns about things being banned. Maybe you just don't think, hands off my information. 204-780-0893 or hands off my social media. Toll free 1-800-268-5483. Well, they would have interest, any government would, in the way that Marcel votes, for example. But again, that's happening already and with AI, the danger is that we're going to see more fake videos of our political leaders, and it'll look and sound so real. How do you rein that in? Has anyone figured it out?
The kind of content that modern generative AI can produce is essentially indistinguishable from human-generated content. There don't exist systems that can tell the difference. Many people will try to claim that they have a system that can tell the difference, and they will sell it to you. But the reality that we see is that the images and the text that these things can create, it's not difficult to create a believable deep fake of anybody saying anything or doing anything. And that really brings into question what is the truth of the things that we see on these platforms.
Absolutely. Does Canada need a better comprehensive framework on privacy for social media users?
The privacy question again, and to the previous caller's point, like what does some foreign government care what I eat for breakfast? The question isn't individual people's data. The question is the broad strokes of what a population is doing, what a population is interested in, how they're behaving, and therefore how they can be influenced, right? Getting the data about what a population does is the first step in deciding how to generate content that will influence a particular activity or a particular decision or a particular idea. And this is why the security and privacy is such an important issue.
We haven't really talked about the content creators either. There are all kinds of people. Do you have any idea how many in Canada? I know in the U.S. it's thousands and tens of thousands of people who make a living creating videos that you and I watch, and then we go and buy products, or they are sponsored, and that's how they make their living. What will happen to them?
Thousands and thousands of them, yes. And this is always the question with these new media is as people find ways to make living on these platforms, then when the governments try to modify how these platforms operate, that means people have to then change the way that they do things. My suspicion is that because this short-form video feed model now exists on many other platforms, that people will be able to pivot. If TikTok isn't there, then different audiences on different platforms will be found. But TikTok is one of the big drivers of the large-scale successes, right? They have this internal algorithm we've seen that can sort of warm a particular creator and say, this person is going to be successful today, and then millions of people see them and they become popular. That kind of model will not exist anymore if TikTok goes away, but other models will appear.
Other people are trying. Other companies are desperately trying to figure out this algorithm and copy it, aren't they?
Yeah,
or
that's right.
Create one that's even better.
Anything to bring people onto their platform and stay there and see the ads.
We've got a couple of people who are watching on YouTube. You go to YouTube and you search CBC Manitoba. You can find our programs there, including watching this one live or watching it again after the show ends if you miss something. And a couple of those people have weighed in, and I just want to ask them for a little bit more information. Dave says, I never use TikTok, and I want to know why, Dave. Is it because of these security concerns? Because you've heard that it's owned by a Chinese company and it may be feeding you bad things, or is there something else you just don't like about it? And Jake says, ban TikTok. And I'm wondering, Jake, is that the same reason? Because of the security concerns, everything that's been raised about Chinese interference. So if, type away, kids. Let me know what you think. A little bit more information about that. We've Meta banned news. Do many people turn to TikTok now for news?
Absolutely. Yeah, people find their sort of awareness of the current state of the world in lots of different platforms. But so I talk to my teenagers about this. My teenager goes to TikTok to find information about the world. And I talk to them often about, like, you spend a lot of time on this. This is like the first thing you look at. I just said like two. I apologize. The first thing you look at
I should really get over that. It's just I hear my grandmother in my head all the time.
I think it's become a thing. It's the first thing that my teenager will look at when they wake up. It's the last thing they look at when they go to bed. We talk about, like, how can you reduce the amount of time you spend on this thing? They agree. They don't want to spend as much time as they do, but they find that they sort of have to because their friends are there. That's where they get their news. I asked them, like, what would the world look like if TikTok was gone? And they said that would actually be okay with them. They spend time there. They spend a lot of time there, but they don't like the time they spend there. right? We call it doom scrolling. We call it, they'll share something from TikTok and say, I found this thing on TikTok. Now, I know TikTok's a dumpster fire, but here's this thing that I found. And so after an hour of scrolling, they would look at me and say, I wish I had been doing something else.
Yeah. That's how I feel about social media. I always, fall into that dark hole, and it seems like a big time waster. I'm interested in what they say. Like, I know TikTok's a dumpster fire. Do they say that, do you think, because of the conversations you have in your home? Or do you think other teenagers are widely viewing TikTok as a dumpster fire?
My sense is that the friend groups that they have share this information, that they don't like being there, but everybody else is there, and so they feel like they need to be there. Once they're in, then they'll go there for 5 minutes and spend an hour. There are all of these other concerns, like social media in general, about the changes in the way we behave, the changes in our brain chemistry, the changes in our curiosity.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a concern.
Oh, it's a huge concern, and especially with young developing brains. I saw a book the other day, and the title was "The Anxious Generation," and it showed a picture of a teenager on their phone. It's impacting the way people sleep. There's all kinds of things going on. We want to know, and thank you so much. We want to know what other questions you think we should be asking here on our Radio Noon call-in. We're looking for ideas all the time. What are you talking about? What are you worried about? What should we ask Manitoba? Let's keep these conversations going, because I think it's good for all of us to keep thinking and keep talking and accepting and hearing other people's opinions. What are you watching for? Is this something that your classes are following as well, David?
For sure, yeah. We're talking about how social media impacts the way that we do business. I mean, in computer science, we will become the people who build these tools.
Yes.
And so in our classes, we talk about the ethics of building a tool that has the purpose of modifying your behavior, modifying your attention.
And making your teenagers, for example, they don't want to be there, but it's addictive. They've
Precisely.
made it addictive.
That's right. And that's by design, because the metric that the platforms will use is time on platform. If you spend more time on platform, that's a success. And they point to that and say, see, you enjoy this. We're doing something that you enjoy. Whether or not we actually enjoy it depends on how you ask the person, an hour later. Did you really enjoy that hour you spent on social media?
What do you hear from your students in terms of any qualms they might have about getting into the industry, if that's one they're considering getting into?
Often the motivation for getting into computer science is something like building video games, or
Right.
or developing websites, or contributing to the economy, or making money, whatever it is. When we have these deeper conversations about the fact that the tools that you build can affect other people's behavior, it does make them think a little bit. It makes them take a step back and say, yeah, that's something to be worried about, to make sure that the way we're doing these things is in a way that will make the world a better place, as opposed to just a way that'll make more money for a few people.
David Gerhard, thank you so much for your time today, sharing your expertise and wisdom with us, and for coming in to the studio here on Portage Avenue.
You're very welcome.
David Gerhard is the head of computer science at the University of Manitoba. I want to thank everyone who called in today, too. It's great to hear those voices. And remember, you can keep weighing in by calling our listener line. The number is 204-788-3797. We often get really interesting comments after the program call-in segment ends, or after the program ends in its entirety. In our call-in yesterday, for example, when we were talking about signs of spring, afterwards we got a call. One of the things that came up was the Narcissus snake dens. They're apparently so active right now that if you wait until Mother's Day weekend, when it was traditionally very busy there, all the spring mating madness may be done. So a man named Gord, a listener named Gord, called, and I want to thank you for doing that, Gord. Gord called our listener line, 204-788-3797, and left a message just to make sure we all know that a recent issue of Canadian Geographic, the one that shows sea otters on the cover, includes an article on the Narcissus snakes and the dens there. Gord says the photographs are fantastic. So I'm going to go online and see if I can find it. Gord, thank you for your call. We absolutely love hearing from Manitobans, our peeps, and our friends in Northwest Ontario as well. As Faith Windall is always so good about mentioning, every time you start, Faith has come into the studio now to join us.
It's the good folks in Northwestern Ontario.
So the bad folks, we don't, and there's no bad, well,
No.
there's bad folks everywhere, Faith.
We say hello to everybody.
Yeah.
I
Well, that's
use
great.
the word good folks in a very broad term.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. Is your program on at 3 today?
Yeah, so we're on at 3 o'clock, but it's exciting because between 3 and 4 p.m. today, we will be broadcasting in Nunavut and Nunavik.
I knew there was something special about that first hour.
So we will be saying hello to the folks listening in that listening region from 3 to 4 o'clock. But Up to Speed will still be up to speed. So
that's amazing. But well, how cool.
It's going to be exciting.
That is exciting. You'll have to remember to say hi to more good folks.
Yes. Even more good folks. That's right. You were talking about representing Winnipeg. We're going to hear from a Winnipeg author who is using poetry to help manage her borderline personality disorder. And we'll hear why she now sees her condition as a superpower. I love that reframe.
I do too. I absolutely love it.
It's going to be a good conversation.
Yes, it is, Faith. It always is when you're hosting and
you're
leading
so
it.
kind. Get out of here.
I can't. I still have a minute left of show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. Faith Wendall hosts Up to Speed, which airs 3 to 6 p.m. here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and wherever you can access a computer or a phone and listen to the CBC Listen app or find YouTube. See, we're everywhere. Thank you to everyone who worked so hard this week putting this program on. We'd love to hear from you what you think of our call-in and our program because we're making lots of changes. Travis Peterson is the genius who puts us on YouTube every day. Thank you, Trav. Dylan Longhurst, thanks. Dylan's playing the music right now. He's our technical director. Wendy Parker, I often refer to as my partner in crime. She's actually the other half of my brain. Our brains work very differently, we've discovered, and it makes us, complete. Wendy, you complete me. Nellie Gonzalez and Leif Larson are our leaders in the unit. Thank you, guys. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. I'm Janet Stewart. Have a fabulous weekend, and stay with CBC because up next, CBC Podcast Playlist will give you an idea of what things you should check out this weekend. Take good care, and we'll talk to you Monday.